How are you all today? Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this Sunday school message again, and I pray that God will bless you through this message. And so for today's message, we will be with Joshua again, and the topic will be about how God heard Joshua's prayers and how he provided victory and peace for Joshua. And so before we begin, I would like to read some scriptures for you guys. So it'll be in Joshua chapter 10, verse 1 through 15, and Joshua chapter 10, verse 23. So follow along as I read it, alright?
Now it came about when Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured Ai and had utterly destroyed it, just as he had done to Jericho and its king. So he had done to Ai and its king, and that the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were within their land. That they feared greatly because Gibeon was a great city like one of the royal cities, and because it's greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent word to Hoham, king of Hebron, and to Piram, king of Jarmuth, and Japhia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon, saying, "Come up to me and help me, and let us attack Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the sons of Israel." So the kings of the 5 Amorites, and the kings of Jerusalem, and the king of Hebron, and the king of Jarmuth, and the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon gathered together and went up with their armies, and camped by Gibeon, and fought against it. Then the men of Gibeon sent word to Joshua to the camp of Gilgal, saying, "Do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly, and to us, and save us, for the kings of the Amorites that live in the hill country have assembled against us." So Joshua went up from Gilgal, and all his people of war with him, and all the valiant warriors. The Lord said to Joshua, "Do not fear them, for I have given them into your hands. Not one of them shall stand before you." So Joshua came up them suddenly by marching all night from Gilgal, and the Lord confounded them before Israel, and he slew them with great slaughter. At Gibeon he pursued them by the way of the Asan, by Beth-horon, and struck them as far as Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel, while they were at the descent of Beth-horon, the Lord threw large stones from the heaven on them as far as Azekah, and they died. There were more who died from the hailstones than from whom the sons of Israel had killed with the sword. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord had delivered up the Amorites before the sons of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, "O sun, stand still at Gibeon, and O moon in the valley of Aijalon." So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation avenged themselves for its enemies. It is not written in the book of Jashar, and the sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and did not hasten to go down before a whole day. There was no day like that before it, nor after it, when the Lord listened to the voice of man, for the Lord fought for Israel. Then Joshua and all Israel with him returned to the camp at Gilgal. They did so, and brought these 5 kings out to him before the cave, and the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, and the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon. When they brought these kings out to Joshua, Joshua called for these men of Israel, and said to the chiefs of the men of war who had gone with him, "Come near, put your feet on the necks of these kings." So that they came near, put their feet on the necks. Joshua said to them, "Do not fear or be dismayed. Be strong and courageous, for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies with whom you fight." So afterwards Joshua struck them and put them to death, and he hanged them on the 5 trees, and they hung the trees till evening. And it came about at sunset that Joshua gave a command, that they took them down from the trees and threw them into the cave where they were hidden themselves. And they put large stones over the mouth of the cave to this very day.
So amen to those scriptures that we just read. And so a little bit of backstory before getting into this lesson. The Gibeonites, they were, you could say, one of the tribes that was standing in Israel's way before the people of Israelites can actually obtain the promised land. But then instead of destroying them, because they were somewhat an enemy to the Israelites, they decided to make a peace treaty with them. But only in this case, only some of them wanted to join, and some of them didn't want to join. So it wasn't 100% like everyone, 100% of the people wanted to join. It was more divided in a sense. But yet Joshua, he still signed the treaty. He still, I guess, made peace with them. And so you could say they were allies, but they weren't really allies because of that little initial thing. And so like getting into the lesson now, the tribes of I guess the surrounding place over there, Jerusalem was one of them. Oh yeah, Jerusalem was one of them, and a lot of other tribes as well. There were 5 in total. They actually joined forces together, and they're like, okay, the people of the Gibeonites and the Israelites, 2 very big you could say powerhouses back in the day, they joined forces. And so they were one big happy family. Well, I guess not really happy, but they were a force to be reckoned with. And so in order for those 5 tribes to, I guess, take down these 2 nations, they had to band together. And so when they banded together, they marched over, and like they were first, like the Gibeonites, they were attacking the Gibeonites first. And when the Gibeonites were attacked, they sent word to Joshua. And so they sent word to Joshua saying, you know, the 5 kings have come against us, joined forces and come against us. Please help us with this. And so after hearing that, you know how they weren't really too, I guess, like they've been tricked, you could say. Instead of that 100% decision for the peace treaty, some people didn't, some people did. They felt like betrayed in a sense, but yet they still had to go through with the peace treaty that they made. So they had to help their allies, you could say. And so they actually marched all night, and then once they got to you know, the battlefield, they fought all day. And so you can just imagine how tired they were right after like they marched all night long, and then they fought all day long, and so they were very tired throughout that. But this lesson is about how God heard I guess Joshua's prayers, and how he provided victory for him and provided peace. And so we will get to how he provides victory. And so in verses 8, God, he already had promised Joshua victory. He says, march on against them, and I will surely give you victory over them. And then so with this one, God, he helped with the victory. Actually, he helped even more than the Israelites did, because he, for one, he sent hailstorms down. He sent hails down on the five united armies, and they say it killed more than the sons of Israel combined together. And so, and also, well, from what the Israelites did do, here's the part where God actually heard and heeded Joshua's voice. Actually, Joshua actually wanted the sun to stay still and the moon to stay still, since you know, since they were all gathered there together, he can just take them out all at a time, like one single swoop, and take out all his enemies at that one time. And so he asked God to let the moon and the sun stay still, so that, you know, they will have like enough daylight to actually go and defeat their enemies. And so that's exactly what God did. And verse it was around verse 14 where it says that not once has like well, God heeded the voice, and not once has like an event like that happened before, where God had listened to the voice of man and heeded it just like that day. And so that was like a remarkable feat of just what God did to just stop the moon and stop the sun right in its tracks, so that thing can happen. So it was like a miracle in a sense. And so that goes with the God hears and the God provides the victory for the Israelites. And so what about peace? Well, for one, like right when they were done with, like, you could say, how about this backtrack? It's they were marching all night long, and they fought all day long. But in this case, this day was 24 hours. Because you know how Joshua told the moon and I guess Joshua asked for the sun and moon to stay still. So they fought for longer than you could say they were supposed to, or I guess what daylight will give them. But yet they still fought on. And when the battle was over, it was like a sigh of relief. It was like, oh, finally, it is over. And so, like, just imagine a time where you were, like, you know, like you were working very hard, or you just couldn't wait for something to be over. And once it was finally over, you gave a sigh of relief. It was like, ah, tranquility. And so, but other than that, that was one of them. The other piece to it was, you know how the five armies were like the only thing stopping the Israelites from, you could say, like they were in the way from the Israelites achieving their goal of the Promised Land. And so with those five, like they were all done in one fell swoop. With all those five down, it was like they had no other opposing armies to fight against. They had no other rivals to contend with in order for them to achieve the Promised Land. And so having them struck all at once, like all dying all at once, it was like, oh, finally all our enemies are gone. And so there was no conflict, no war. And so that was like a time of peace for Joshua. And so that was all due to God's provision of victory. And so that was my lesson for today. I hope you were encouraged, or I guess gained understanding that you didn't know before. And so, but other than that, I pray for your spiritual growth in God. And if you are still going to school, or I guess all that other stuff, yes, I know it's hard now, but once it's over with, I mean, it goes day by day, but once it'll come faster than you think. But once it's over, it'll be a sigh of peace. So I will see you guys next week, and so God bless and peace.